Welcome back to the Maven Show. This is your host, Rohit. Today we have Ethan, the award-winning author and professor. Thank you, Ethan, for getting into the show.
Thank you for having me, Rohit.
So I think you have recently published one of your book, which is obviously the bestseller, and it's award-winning as well. And you are also the professor, and you've been writing books, and you are about to publish your next book as well. So would you just like to give a quick intro about yourself, because your book was self-published and it was bestseller, it was award-winning as well. So a brief intro will be much appreciated from you.
Sure. I appreciate you having me on the Maven Show. My name's Ethan Gallogly, and I'm a professor and author of the Next Gen Indie finalist and Amazon bestseller, The Trail. And it's maybe a little unusual on your show, but I want to talk a little bit about my hike on the John Muir Trail across the Sierra Nevada mountains and the book that it inspired. While this may not seem like a business-related topic, hear me out as to why it's important for your listeners. I first hiked the 211-mile John Muir Trail at the age of 50, spending 28 days fully immersed in the wilderness of the High Sierra. Although I'd been an outings leader for some 30 years, nothing prepared me for the transformational experience of hiking the John Muir Trail. The places I saw, the people I met, and the things I experienced are forever etched upon my soul. It was truly an enlightening journey that helped me find new directions and insights. Well, I wanted to share my experience, and I prepared a talk for my college and, in true professor fashion, began researching the history of the John Muir Trail. Unfortunately, my talk got preempted, but I realized I had enough material for a book. And wanting to reach the broadest possible audience, I elected to write a novel about two unlikely characters setting out to hike the trail and their transformations, which, of course, were loosely based on my own. The setting for the book is completely authentic. I've hiked the full length of the trail twice to ensure every scene is accurate, and I've also woven the history into the storyline. The story begins with Gil, who in the wake of his father's death has dropped out of college and is now wasting his life on a string of meaningless jobs and relationships. He gets his call to adventure from Sid, his father's old hiking partner, who's dying of cancer and whose dream is to hike the trail before it's too late. Now, I think the most important thing for your business audience is that the book shows the amazing transformational power of nature, how recreation is really recreation, and how time spent out of the office is just as important as time spent in. Sometimes we get stuck in our lives. Yeah. Nature gives us a special space, an open canvas to reflect upon without all the noise and distractions of the modern world. If there's one major takeaway, it's the importance of taking time out in nature to refocus, reinvent, and inspire new directions. How time out is really time in. That would be the key message of my book.
Got it. That's pretty cool. Awesome. So you have this book was self-published, so it's not been published by any kind of publishing house and so on. So what are the few things you have kept on your mind and in the process of publishing this book, because there's a bunch of competition, because there are much and so many self-published authors, since the KDP is out, or, the KDP is for everyone. Just get in, have a small book, just write a book, sell it for $2 and, earn some decent passive. But how did you define the success for this book?
Well, so I think the first lesson I learned, and it was a hard lesson, is no one will market your book for you. You don't. I was very naive at the beginning. I thought, oh, okay, you put the book up on Amazon, the world will read it. Your sales numbers will go through the roof. It's a great book. How can people not like it? And it doesn't work like that. Not at all. I took a crash course in marketing, and that involved talking with a lot of other indie authors. I read a large number of books about marketing on Amazon and realized everything that I was doing wrong and how to improve it. Later, I was introduced to Facebook marketing, which is another challenge and another set of books. And you start experimenting with these, and you watch how your budget goes and how things are, and you continue to have discussion groups with people. And slowly, what I saw was the book sales take off. And I think the biggest factor in book sales is the quality of the book and the story. If you don't have a good story, you could have the greatest marketing team in the world. It's not going to go very far. But word of mouth has now become probably the single bestseller for this book, because people read it, they like it, they post comments on Facebook and other places. I've had lots of people share, to my surprise, their advertisements. I've had lots of people share my advertisements and say, hey, check this book out. The comments on Amazon have been fantastic. So you have to, as an indie author, put together a good quality book. And I'd say part of that is not just sticking it on KDP. I mean, I spent a lot of time getting an illustrator to illustrate maps and scenes. I had a professional artist do the cover, a gorgeous cover. And I had it copy edited and everything like that. So I took it through. This is my second book. So I'd been through that experience with the publisher, and I took it through all the steps needed to make it a quality product. But it was the marketing that's really a challenge. That was putting on a new hat for me.
Got it. Yeah, and like being as a self-published author, it's kind of like a challenge. If the person is public figure, or person has did bunch businesses as well, then it's pretty much obvious to get a success for the book. But if the person is like one man, then it's kind of like a thing which can be challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm well known in the hiking circles. People, people in the JMT groups and so forth, they know who I am. I've reviewed a number of wilderness press guides and stuff like this. And I've done quite a few miles. I mean, I've been hiking for 30 years, but it's different. You've got to take a book to people who don't know you, who wouldn't recognize you, and get them to see it. And there are lots of people out there, but how do you reach them? It's quite a challenge. One thing I did with the book at the suggestion of a number of authors was I entered it into a number of book contests, and much to my surprise and joy, it won 2 of them, and the Next Gen Indie named it a finalist, which was huge news. And that affirmation, and I'd say this to anyone trying to self-publish a book, enter it into a number of major book contests, because if you happen, if your book succeeds and wins some of these, that's probably your second best marketing, is to have, like that star on the cover and have those blurbs, that, oh, it won this award, it won that. Because I think when people read about a book on Amazon and they take 2 seconds, they look at it, and there's this question, should I lay down my money for this book? Well, I don't know if it's any good, but if you've won some of these contests, that helps people make that choice. And so I would strongly advise people to do that, and also submit it to various agencies for review. And another thing that was suggested to me was send it into various places. I mean, I sent it into the New York Times. They didn't review it. That wasn't a surprise. But Midwest Book Review gave it a stellar review. And Kirkus, Kirkus is famous for slamming books. They gave me, 2 thumbs up. They really gave me a stellar review. And that's also been great for marketing. I put an excerpt from them on the back cover and so forth. So I'd say to an indie author out there, make sure to produce a good quality book, something that, people aren't going to find all kinds of mistakes in, and enter it in as many contests and send it into as many papers and reviewers as you can.
Awesome, pretty cool. So, so yeah, tell me, like, is there any steps you have followed to make the book bestseller, or like in the Amazon bestseller, I have heard like if the book has the best sales, like as many sales and sales coming in for the book, then it's become the bestseller. Is that the main scenario? What's the
Well,
complete process?
it's sort of like that. So Amazon, which I think is great, has many categories. And so,
Mm,
they have, for example, outdoor books and novels and memoir, and they have 100 different categories. And you place your book into several of these. And
yeah,
then if your book is the top seller in that category, then it gives you bestseller status. So within, the outdoor books, mine is doing very well. So it's kind of, you have to place it in the right category so that people will find it there, and you get a bestseller status through that. But my book has continued to sit number one in its category. So I've been very pleased with that. I think, it's gotten knocked out a couple of times, but it's pretty transient. There'll be another book that just comes out and suddenly takes number one in all these categories and then sort of fades away. And
yeah.
my book has been holding very steady there. And I think that's mostly word of mouth. I think as people discover this book, they start telling their friends. I've had some people write to me that our entire hiking club just read your book and loved it, so it's
Got
getting
it.
out there. But I think with indie, it's a slow trajectory. It's not like, I don't have the power of a major publisher to put it in every bookstore on the planet in a week. So,
Mm, that's real.
it takes its time.
Yeah. So, like, is there any sales cap into the Amazon or to make the book bestseller, or is it just like, let's say, like in some of the algorithm, there is the cap, probably not just for the books, but specifically for the businesses as well. Like reach 1K, you will become this star, this level, and so on. Is what happened on the Amazon as well?
Yeah, it's a little different. In the categories, it's simply you are competing against all the other books in that category. So it's, are your numbers good? Now, I know the algorithm on Amazon is complicated. It
Mm,
not only looks at sales, but it looks at sales over time. It looks at momentum. So you have to maintain that sale for a
yeah.
few days, and it looks at reviews. It's rather interesting, but I'd say this to anyone who reads an indie book: please review it on Amazon, because every time you get a review, that bumps you up in your category as well. They weigh the number of people giving reviews too.
Hmm.
Um, but beyond that, it's a mystery. I've asked some of the people at KDP, but they're not allowed to tell you how the algorithm works.
Cool. And how you would like to speak about like selling books on other marketplaces? I believe KDP has one sweet section, which I have also seen. Either you just give the rights to KDP to sell the book into the Amazon only and get the major
No,
majority, and to get the major majority as a royalty, or get a less in royalty and let your book get into other marketplaces as well, you know.
yeah, that's correct. In KDP, those are choices. And most of the wisdom out there is, if you are quickly publishing, if you're doing a lot of quick series, you're doing a mystery thing or whatever, you can just let Amazon market for you. And you can do I think it's the extended KDP, where they go into other markets and they will sell to booksellers. But the practical side of that is that most booksellers, most brick and mortar stores, will not purchase books through Amazon for sale. I mean, if you walk in and order it, yes. But in general, no, because Amazon doesn't give them a big enough discount. They have so much overhead that they need a fairly steep discount on the wholesale side to purchase your book. And so if you want to get into brick and mortar stores, and I've done this, you need to go through a distributor, a traditional book distributor. And you can set that up in Amazon. So I have my book in a number of formats. I've got hardcover, paperback, I've got Kindle, and with Kindle, the ebook, I have an exclusive agreement with Amazon because they do a fantastic job of marketing. So I only released it on Kindle and agreed to that with Amazon. And it's in their Kindle Unlimited program. So anyone who reads a lot of books can read it for free. And I think that's wonderful. You reach a huge market with that, and you get a lot of reviews. On the other hand, I've got an audiobook, which is also doing really, really well. But I have distributed the book. The extended distribution is with Ingram. And Ingram, as you probably know, is I think the largest distributor of books, printer of books on the planet now. And they do all the international markets. They do all that stuff. And it means if a bookstore wants my book, then they can get it at the full wholesale discount from Ingram. And that makes it affordable for bookstores to sell it. And I've had it in a number of bookstores, although I've got to say, and I wish it wasn't this way. I really wish it wasn't. The majority of sales are on Amazon. I think 90% of all the sales go through the Amazon website. So it's unfortunate. And I think the major publishers are able to penetrate the brick and mortar stores a little more. But I don't know what their numbers are, but I would guess they also get the majority of sales on Amazon. It's just so easy for people, right? You click, you can read the reviews, and if you want it, you just order it and it's at your house the next day. It's pretty hard to
Amazon
beat.
is big.
But
Amazon is big. Amazon is big, and to be honest, like products which Amazon has, no other company have. They have Kindle, they have audiobooks, they have like bunch of things, and in under that categories or under that product, they have bunch of categories as well to support even sellers and to get for the buyers as well. So it's like a whole ecosystem they have already built in. Yeah, it's big.
Yes. Now, I mean, there are two sides to that. One, Amazon has allowed many, many people to become authors who probably couldn't have otherwise. I suspect this book could have been traditionally published if I'd wanted to spend more time exploring that. But I think there are a lot of sort of what I'd call the quick mystery series on Amazon, this kind of thing, that people are able to crank out, get to an audience, and release almost immediately with very little overhead. So I think Amazon has enabled a lot of those things and created a lot of opportunity that really wasn't there. So I've got to credit them with that. But on the other hand, right, we've seen the disappearance of the mom and pop brick and mortar shop. And I know maybe I'm old school, but I love walking into a bookstore. I love smelling the books and browsing the titles. There's something visceral about that I really love, and it is disappearing with the online market. So, the Chinese say you can't gain something without losing something.
It's real. Sacrificing is a thing to get something. Cool. So awesome. Just tell me one last quick thing, so before launching a book, there's one thing, like how the book will look like, because no one will buy a product if the thing is not looking good. It's obvious.
Yes.
So how to make a book ready to sell, how to design a book, how to make a cover look as amazing as possible.
So for the interior, which people don't think about much, but for the interior, you can hire a book designer. There's a word for it. It escapes me. A typesetter, I think, is what it's called. And I did that because a lot of people don't realize that the interior of a book has a certain format. And you can actually tell when you flip open a book who just printed it on Word and who actually had it typeset. And it feels, it's much more professional to have it typeset. And I think it's very important to do that. Although more and more there's software that allows a book to go from Microsoft Word or whatever you created in and to typeset. Now the cover is a whole different thing. For the cover, I would say, unless you're an artist, hire one. And I was fortunate to work with a tremendously talented woman, Faith Rum, who has an entire series of paintings of the John Muir Trail. She was a former National Park ranger, and she, traveled the trail and taught watercolor classes in Yosemite and oil painting and all this. So she was living up near Yosemite. She had hiked the trail many times and had these fantastic pictures. And I spoke to her and I asked her, could I commission a cover for my book? And so we worked together to create an image, an iconic image of the John Muir hut, which is, one of the, I guess it's the most recognizable structure on the trail. And she did that and put the two characters on the cover, and it's just gorgeous. So I think that's very important. Obviously, don't judge a book by its cover, but many people do, right? It is. No, it is real. Is so important.
It's true. I think people used to say don't judge a book by the cover, but it's true. If the cover will not look good, the book will suck. It is.
Exactly. Yeah. You're going to have a hard time with sales if the cover's not attractive. And again, I was very lucky. She made a gorgeous cover, and I had an illustrator do the maps and some sketches on the inside too. It's a very traditional looking book. And I think it's just gorgeous. I've had a couple of people message me and say, hey, I just read the Kindle and I'm ordering the hard copy because I want it for my collection, So, that makes me feel proud. That makes me feel, wow, okay, I've made something people not only want to read, but want to, hold on to. So it's got that, that look and feel.
Cool. Awesome. So I think after listening your story, many of the listeners would love to go ahead, like a couple of them, like going ahead, writing the first book. So what advice would you like to give to them before writing their first book or before self-publishing their first book?
Well, I wouldn't worry about whether you're going to self-publish or how you're going to get it into the world. I think the first step is writing the book, and that's no small step. In my case, it took me 5 years. Again, this is my second book. My first one also took me 5 years. And a lot of that was doing research, doing rewrites, doing edits. And so I think there's this myth out there that, oh, I've got this great idea for a book. I'm going to sit down and write it, and I'll be a published author, in a week. This myth of, I don't know, someone like Jack Kerouac sitting there typing on a typewriter and the whole book just comes out. It's not like there may be, maybe someone like Stephen King can do that. But I doubt it. Based on, his writing, I think he does quite a bit of editing. And, the first draft of the book may take you a few months, may take you half a year. It depends how much research there is. Could take a year. In my case, it took me a year. But then you go through the editing process, and that can take you another couple of years, and in my case, several. And it's quite a process. You have to be ready. And this is the thing about writing. You have to be absolutely prepared for this to be your second job. It's going to take 10, 20 hours a day of your time every day to put this together for a couple of years, and if you don't have that time and that discipline, it's not going to come together. So, forget about marketing. First, start writing. Now, when you've got that book and it's starting to write and you're in the edits and things are flowing and it's coming together, that's the time to start marketing and learning about marketing. And that was my mistake, was I didn't learn about that till after the book was done. I didn't start learning about marketing until late. And I missed a lot of opportunities. For example, the initial book launch, there's a particular day of the week you're supposed to do that on. I didn't. There's a way to announce it and build up momentum prior to the launch.
Yeah.
Amazon actually weights that book launch quite heavily for you. So, you know, I would have had a running start if I had known how to take best advantage of a book launch. And so you want to learn about marketing, I'd say at least half a year before you get ready to actually launch your book and start building that momentum for it. If I do another one, I'll do it all right. And I probably will. I've got a couple of other books in me that I'm
Awesome.
contemplating. But yeah, you want to do it in parallel, but I wouldn't start worrying about marketing till you've got a book. And you also want to think about, do I want a traditional publisher or not? But I would warn people that even with a traditional publisher, you know, you think, oh, that'll take care of everything, I won't have to market. No, not anymore. Every author I've talked to who has a traditional publisher still has to do a tremendous amount of marketing. You have the push of the publisher behind you, but you still have to go out there and bang the drum. It's not like it all gets done for you. I mean, maybe if you're Barack Obama, it all gets done for you, but not if it's your first book and you're an unknown. So you've got to be prepared for marketing, even if you know you've got Doubleday or someone, you know, backing you.
That's real. I think marketing is a main role for anything, for any launch, for not just for the book, for anything.
Yes,
you know?
yes. And it's not easy. It's not simple at all. It's not just telling your friends, hey, buy my book. You know, you're going to run out of friends quickly.
Obviously, anyone can run out of friends, obviously. Yeah, awesome, Ethan. Well, thank you so much for getting into the show. It was good to have you in, talk about the books, talk about the launch of the book, talk about the self-publishing, authorship, and so on. So yeah, thank you so much for getting in and sharing these insights with the audience.
Thank you for having me, Rohit. And I just want to say that if anyone would like to check out my book, it's called The Trail. It's available on Amazon. It's on Audible. It's on Kindle. And if you would walk into any major bookstore and order it, it's available, again, distributed through Ingram Books, and they'll know how to order that. So yeah, check it out.
We will put everything on the description so anyone can buy for sure.
Perfect. Thank you again for having me on the Maven Show.